keep your boyfriend's head out my skirt. If you get that reference, you shouldn't. Thank you to our $5 patrons, Sinners Lancelot, Art Goon, and The Divine Anpu. And a very big thank you to our $25 patron, the Mr. Greed. Now, before we have this breakdown / review of chapter 56 of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse, please, in favor, leave your own notes on the chapter in the comment section down below, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, let's get into last week's poll. So last week, I ended up asking y'all about what you thought about the chapter. A simple request I simply wanted to know because I know this was going to be a hype chapter for a lot of people. And the poll results reflect that heavily. With a meaty 69% of a 9 to a 10 out of 10, we got a 10, well, that's it. It's 69% and 10 out of 10. Essentially, 69% of y'all thought the chapter was smacking. It was pure heat. And that's nice. But also, reflective of what I thought was going to be, I gave a kind of mean review just because, like, I love action, I really do, but the logic or lack thereof last chapters will really made me drag it down a little bit. However, that was more so in the 7 to 8 range, which they got 12%, then the 5 to 6 range got 16%, then with a staggering 3%, the 3 to 4 range got it, and with the mightiest lowest number of all of them, no one thought the chapter was a 1 to a 2. No one thought it was the lowest of the low. So there you go. Last week's chapter did a pretty good job overall. Usually, whenever I do those kinds of polls, at least one single vote out of the possible tens, if not over 100 votes, will go to the lowest option, but not a single one did, showing how good last week's chapter was as a whole, which hopefully carries on to this week's chapter. However, there was 140 votes on that poll, and I think everyone who did do it, like I said, I love doing these polls. It's a good way to get the community consensus on a chapter or an idea or future concept. I just love doing them. Make sure you hit tomorrow's poll, dropping at 12 p.m. to make sure your opinion gets included for next week's poll or next week's video review of the poll. Now, enough of that. Let's get into chapter 56 of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil, and here we are to review chapter 56 of 4 Nights of the Apocalypse, which is known as the Nights of Prophecy Meet. And kind of, I mean, three out of four. We were pushing our luck. And we got 3 out of 4. And honestly, this chapter as a whole just makes me like, it said, here, have questions. Here, make predictions. Here, get annoyed. But enough of that. Let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up, and we get to see that Percy's happy and crying once again that all of his friends are safe, because obviously they got almost slaughtered for no reason. And I don't, like, shout outs to the Tristan group, the Tristan Platoon Defense Squad in the comment section down below. I still don't see it. Like, legitimately, I still don't see how their actions are anywhere near excusable. Especially, like, and the thing is, I think Nakaba must have heard that there was a defense squad for them, because even he gives even more reason in this chapter why their defense or why their offense was unexcusable. Because I don't think it ever was meant to be. I think we were supposed to just, it was a bad excuse for combat. That's the thing I got on last chapter for, but I guess this chapter kind of reverse justifies it. However, we had to see, obviously, Tristan is in the background as he's watching Percival cry his eyes out that his friends are alive. And we see that as Anne goes to, like, critique Percival about being such a handful, she drops. And notably, at least she drops and Percival catches her. Poor Donnie and Nasians. Like, Nasians was smart, though. He didn't get all the way back up. He only fell from his knees down. Meanwhile, Donnie stood all the way back up, only to literally, oh no. Ooh, Donnie's lucky he didn't crack his skull open, because he literally fell backwards. He didn't even fall forward. And we see that Percival is like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I can see now. Good thing the veil of darkness was taken off my head so I can actually communicate and see things rather than being blinded by darkness. Too bad someone put that on me when they had really no reason to. But regardless of that, we get to see that Percy's going in to heal them, but his magic isn't activating. And here's the thing, right? I thought, notably, I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to go back in time to check. But ever since Percy's magic awoken, this is a point. I think he's always had at least one comrade with him. But I never realized or considered the idea that if his comrades aren't physically awake and screaming hope at him, he can't use his magic at all. Like, notably, it's not like a wisp of a tiny Percy doesn't even pop out. Like, Percy's magic is essentially null and void. It doesn't exist anymore. And that's all because his friends are knocked out. And Percy seems to come to this realization that while they're going to die, it's because his power is driven on hope, and without their emotions powering it, oh my, without the, not the Rengoku way, but the, oh my. But the thing is, without their emotions powering it, his powers won't work because they're passed out. So notably, if I were to throw my own hat into the ring, the way I thought Percy's magic functioned is that there is a baseline level of power for Percy's own hope, right? Like, as long as he believed in himself, to some degree, one way or another, his magic would exist. However, if he had more people around him fueling him, his magic would continue to amp itself, possibly to no limit. The only limit would be how much hope can he hear and, I guess, absorb from other people. But apparently, thanks to his friends being knocked out and no hope at all, I suppose, he can't summon any of it. And I'm not sure if that's a blessing in disguise or just a general curse, right? Because notably, we know Percy, once he gets control of this other side of him, always does have some sort of magic to rely on. Like, he gave Kion a job of hands that Kion will never forget. So we know he has some other side of his magic. He just needs to master that. So I wonder, like, it depends, right? Because the thing is, with the knights being confirmed as they are in this chapter, with one of them being an actual healer who can flicker on that healing magic and seems to be pretty biased towards that healing magic so far already, it's entirely possible that Percy's role for the longest may have been group amplifier, but now he can just go pure DPS. Like, he doesn't have to worry about using hope magic anymore because he has despair magic, as I'm gonna flip the coin, right? We've been calling it despair magic, so despair magic it is. But with that being the case, I wonder if this is a telling sign. But notably, the thing is, if he's with the other knights, I doubt any of them are just gonna pass out like this. So I doubt Percy will ever truly be powerless. But that's another thing, right? Considering that this hope can be replaced essentially at will by new friends, it's more than likely that our old main cast does not need to stay in the narrative, and that actively concerns me. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I could play it cool, but man, I'm gonna miss Nonsense and them if they get kicked out of the narrative. But that's interesting. I just find it interesting that Percy has no magic at all, no hope magic at all, even when he's his normal self, and he's hoping that he can heal them. I don't know. Kind of strange. Though I'm pretty sure if I were to go back, I'll see every time Percy uses his magic, at least one of his friends are awake and believing in him, to the point where he can only self-res if other people aren't believing in him. Okay, but then we get to see that as Percy's having this whole, I can't call it a midlife crisis, I can't even call it fifth life crisis about his friends dying, Tristan walks up and is like, I bet, don't worry, bro. And he slaps them with Healing Star. And I wonder if all of Tristan's attacks are going to be star-based. Like, what, we had Twinkling Star last chapter, we have Healing Star this chapter. Like, I'm assuming all of his magic will, at least his goddess side of his magic, will be star-based. I wonder if that's a reference to anything. I know, like, his grandma created a star. Well, technically, depending on who you ask, both of his grandma and his grandpa created. That's crazy. I know the Supreme Deity and the Demon King are rolling over in their non-existent graves right now. Like, Tristan is an affront to their very existence. Like, no lie. Tristan is the exact opposite of what either of them would have wanted. And I know you could very easily argue that Meliodas and Elizabeth having a relationship at all is the exact opposite to what they wanted, but like, Tristan is the ultimate accumulation of literally a goddess and a demon. Sure, an impure goddess, but still, worst comes to worst, the prince and princess of the two strongest clans had a kid, and this kid is wielding both of their magics, or has the potential to wield both of their magics. Do you know how mad the Supreme Deity would be if she found out a mostly demon was storing around arc magic? Shoot, if I was a Supreme Deity, I'd be mad. But of course, it is cool to see that Tristan, once again, just due to years upon years of experience, has high level of mastery over his magic. Not only does he have the offensive, I'll erase you filthy demons from existence kind of arc, he also has the, don't worry, I'll erase your wounds from existence kind of arc. And notably, his power is pretty potent, right? Like, he flickers on Healing Star pretty quickly, and then in a matter of what seems like seconds, everyone's back to complete normal. Like, the pain, the wounds, their fatigue, all of that has been. Sure, they're sweating a bit, but outside of that, they just stand back up pretty normally. Which is, it's to be expected considering the level of healer that his mom was on, especially considering now I think about it. I think Elizabeth was 16 at the time of Seven Deadly Sins, unless I am tripping. Hold on, let me Google that. But I think Elizabeth was 16. If that's the case, it would make sense that Tristan would be like in apt comparison to his mom at the same age. And yeah, she was 16 at the time of Seven Deadly Sins, and she was a monster then. So it would make sense that Tristan is a healing monster already, considering he got knowledge of his powers at least a couple years earlier, if not way longer. So yeah, definitely makes sense that he could pop them all up, healing them pretty well. And notably, it's very weird, right? Because I mean, I guess once they're all up again, and I guess like Nasians says Percival's name after they're all marveling at the fact that their wounds have vanished, and just by saying Percival's name, many Percivals pop up. Like, they're just like, hey, we're back. Sorry to vanish from existence real quick. Thank you, my boy Nasians. This is why you best boy, dog. Now I'm a dip out. But I don't know. That seems like a very big limitation. Like, if accidentally, right? Say Nasians were put in a situation where he had to knock everyone out, right? Or like, say he had to use his gas that knocks everyone out, except he stays up and Percy stays up because he guarded himself. But then Nasians gets knocked out. Does Percy's magic just hard? Does just hard vanish? I don't know. And I wonder if he's gonna be able to induce that state he was in on command by some point, because it seems like a whole nother individual based on what he says later on. But I don't know, the fact that his magic is so heavily conditional on the consciousness and I guess not well-being, but at least being of his friends, is kind of shocking. But of course, we get to see that Isolde slopping. Wait, I can't say. She's probably like praising Tristan out the wazoo, and it seemed, and notably Percival. I wonder what he means here when he says you got a whole lot of magic, because notably, I mean, Tristan's just shown like 2 spells, so maybe he's sensing. But then again, he couldn't sense anything outside. But Percival's sensory abilities are weird, right? Because notably, he should have sensed that his friends were alive, just very weakened. If he could, if he's referring to the fact that Tristan just has loads of magic power within him, or if he's referring to the number of spells, Percival, you saw 2, and based on what you say earlier, you just saw 1. So I'm assuming it's just the amount of magic, but that may just come because he managed to heal all of them. But Percy, you can do that too. So if he's got a whole lot of magic, what do you have, bro? You literally revived yourself from the dead. I don't think Tristan can do that. However, we get to see Tristan full up goddess eyes, and notably we saw that last chapter too, but it's cool to get just like a clear shot of it where it's just him, his eyes, and he seriously does look like his mom. Like I hate to say it, Meliodas' hairstyle is there, especially if you like. In fact, if I were to just erase, if I have time I may do that, but if I were to just erase the longer strands of hair that come from his mom, he would literally just be Elizabeth's face with Meliodas' hairstyle. So he is a very good representation of their son, but he has the eyes, and then notably the moment he blinks, the eyes go away. So I wonder, like, so does stop it. Does Tristan have like 3 states of being? Because notably, I'm assuming this state that he's in with his eyes like this are his goddess mode. So I'm assuming the state with his eyes when they're normal is human mode. And then I guess, does he likely have a demon mode? And if so, can he overlap all 3 of these? Because the thing is, right, the goddess clan didn't necessarily seem to spawn with its own magic, right? Like, for some reason, the goddesses seem to only have arc. We know that the 4 archangels themselves, they didn't even have any unique magic. They just had the graces, and the graces weren't even theirs. Like, they didn't come up with their graces. It's not like the graces evolved an existing power of theirs. It was literally, here, have some elemental manipulation. Meanwhile, the demons and the humans, they're born with their own unique magic. Every 10 Commandment member had their own special saw, so they had their own little unique magic. Galen had a critical over, Malaska had a roll soul manipulation thing, even though you could argue that's an evolution of like base demon soul manipulation, but still, that's still a unique magic. Fraudrin had full size, Monspeed had Purg. Like the combo start. Like there are different magics that high level demons can be born with. We had a whole plot where we had Ominous Nebula being Zelda's unique demon class magic thing, and then we had the Destroyer being Meliodas' and the Ruler being the Demon Kings. So like there's this line of process where Tristan technically should have not just 3 separate states of being the human state, the goddess state, the demon state, and possible overlapping states where he has like goddess eyes but filled with demon darkness, and or regular eyes filled with goddess eyes. Like notably, Tristan could hypothetically overlap things to make his magic either more potent or it may work against each other. 'Cause that's the thing, right? Chaos works because it is a balance. Like it is pure darkness and it is pure light. Like two are merged. Meanwhile, I think due to Tristan's biology, he may not be able to overlap just because of the biochemical imbalances within him. Like he would have to artificially and conscientiously manage the variances in his arc magic and his dark magic. Well, then the weird thing is, right? Because arc is magic. That's the thing. Like unlike darkness in Seven Deadly Sins, which seems to have more physical properties and magical properties, because things like the Ruler can't negate it. The demons were able to wield darkness even when they were fresh out the seal and had literally 0 magic. So like darkness has physical properties, meanwhile arc seems to have more magical properties. So I don't really know. Like Tristan's in a weird boat in where his potential could go, because he could just become Mael. Yeah, legit. He could just become 4 combatant Mael. You wouldn't hear any complaints from me. I wouldn't complain. Give him the half dark wings, give him the half light wings, give him fusion wing, whatever. Do that. I wouldn't care. You wouldn't hear me complain. However, at the same time, I could definitely see Nakaba balancing Tristan by having him have to essentially like train all 3 of his unique sides. And I wonder if he's going to get a unique human magic. Or, because like looking at his lineage, I can't remember what Margaret or Veronica's unique magic was. We know the king had vision, so I don't know where Tristan can go, but it seems like he can go in a bunch of different directions in terms of his end game potential levels of strength. Because hypothetically, if we have a light, dark, possibly chaos, human magic powered plus demon magic powered monster on our hands, you know, Percy may just have a rival, you know what I'm saying? But of course, we get to see that Tristan, he played for keeps. Okay. Game respect game. I ain't got no game, but game respect game. Tristan, I see what you're doing there, dog. Because like he serves it up, right? He serves it up because Isolde comes with that praise. She's like, hey, Prince Tristan has inherited blood from the goddess clan. He can heal anyone, no matter how bad off they are. And notably, that is true because like I'll never forget when Mael, graceless, and like wait, no, he had his grace. That was the whole point. But still, Mael with his grace, a combatant, a warrior, if you will. He was a warrior. He pulled up on Escanor, who was missing an arm, missing an eye, Escanor was missing more parts of his body than he had. Nah, that's not true. His head was still intact, but still, he was missing so many different limbs. And Mael, with a touch to the head, a quick tap to the domer, restored that man to full pride. Like, well, not to like big buff Escanor, but still, he restored his limbs and everything. So goddess magic is pretty darn insane. So I know Tristan, someone who seems to be more balanced as a combatant, like he seems to be a much more mixed type. He doesn't seem like a pure offensive type like Mael seemed to be. I know his healing magic has got to be nutty. I know it's got to be crazy. However, I got off topic, but the thing is, Tristan, he served it up, or he got served up, and he was like, hey, yeah, that's right. I can heal anything at all, just not your clothes, sadly. And then he has this weird, like, notably, I thought that was a play on his father's tendencies leaking through, but I guess he was just, he was going for the most mid girl in the entire, not even mid, she's awful. I'm not sure if that was Nakaba trying to strike me down or my body agreeing with me in terms of Isolde being unbelievably mid, but because we get to see Tristan after he got that serve up and hit it out of the park. Meanwhile, while Tani, Nasi, and Percival and Anne are all looking confused, Isolde just breaks down. Like, I don't believe in violence, but I do believe in justice. So like, I legitimately, the fact that Isolde busted a gut and probably busted a blank at the idea of Prince Tristan with his amazing jokes. Come on, no, you just want that royal money, don't you? You want that royal status. Like, Isolde, do you even love Tristan? Is this a thing? Because, like, I'm getting mad Diane and Meliodas flashbacks. Except, like, at least I'm confident, because Meliodas had nothing. Like, man had nothing but a bar. So I'm at least sort of somewhat confident in the idea that you're just a gold digger, Isolde. I know that custom dress had to be expensive. Like, there's not a single other Holy Knight wearing anything similar to what you're wearing. So I'm going to make some assumptions. You're a gold digger. That's why your magic causes explosions when you hit it with things, huh? You just make things blow up so you can get some gold out of it. I see what you're doing there, because that was not funny. Like, notably, Donnie. Wait, is it? I can't tell. Is that Donnie? No. Oh, that's even worse. Everyone there, like the whole Percival squad is like, was that a joke? Because literally, I still demands that they laugh too. But legitimately, that sounded like a freaky deaky kind of line. It didn't sound like a joke. So the fact that I still was demanding it, well, you're just even more mid than before. But the thing is, we get to see that Jade is a little bit worried about his homeboy too, who is he going ooh because obviously his arm is a little bit jacked up. And notably, when Tristan does go to heal it, not only is it so interesting enough, I thought Healing Star may have referred to the formation that Tristan called his magic, or like the formation that his magic was in. But it seems entirely possible that this is just his own unique kind of healing magic, because I believe Elizabeth's spells were called like Invigorate or Restore, right? So it's possible that this is just an offshoot of what the original Goddess Healing Magic is, because once again, Tristan is very apt and very strong with his goddess powers, considering that's only a fourth of his DNA. Like, the man is, once again, I said it last chapter, he's more demon than he is human, yet he's heavily biased towards his goddess powers. And I don't know, it seems like, but maybe this Healing Star, a knockoff, if you will, of the original goddess magic, even though it does seem to be just as strong. Maybe it is called that because it can't match the levels of Elizabeth. And to be fair, even he himself notes later on in the chapter that he would, if they couldn't heal Kion's arm right here, right now, they would likely to take it to someone like his mom, or interestingly enough, Hendrickson. So it appears that while Tristan does have a decently high level of healing magic, he can restore pretty grievous wounds, he still has a long way to go that a druid could surpass him, even though he's on this level of healing. And I would never say that, like, once she got her healing magic unlocked, I would never say that Hendrickson was ever a better healer than Elizabeth was. So, I don't know, kind of interesting, gotta take notes. And that's the thing, I'll give this chapter this. The like button is free, by the way, and it greatly helps out the channel if you hit it. But I will give the chapter this. It is a constant, like, write that down. Like, that's the whole chapter. Like, I'm literally, as I was reading it for the first time, I was taking note. I was elaborating. I was considering and configuring in my head. But, of course, we get to see that the arm that's trying to be healed is not doing anything, for one. And two, Donnie asks Percival a question. He's like, wait a minute, Percy, last I checked, Anne's magic isn't offensive. Nasian's, well, he's best boy. I've never seen one of his poisons do that, and I don't remember draining the life from that man. So did you do that? And the thing is, Percival says, I don't know. Like, I don't remember much of it. And that's interesting, concerning, both. Like the thing is there, right? Because if Donnie asked Percival that, and Percival doesn't remember doing it, does that mean, like, either A, Percival was in a trance-like state, right? Like, where it was technically still him, but he was, as mentioned in last week's comment section by a lot of people, simply fighting on instinct. Like, he was running on autopilot. That's why he had no idea what he was doing. But this sounds like, at least, if I were to do an app comparison, right? Like, I used to be an athlete. I don't run as often as I do. I try to stay in shape, but I don't run as often as I do. But I used to be a track athlete. And the thing is, whenever I did any of my races, whether it be the 100, the 200, the 400, like, whenever I did those, I would, like, attempt to, and sometimes succeed in entering that trance-like state, where you're, like, your body, like, all thoughts kind of dims down, and you just push yourself. And that's usually how you hit PRs. Like, most of my athletes out there, you have that state of flow, or whatever, like, whatever you call it, like, we just called it the trance, like where you were supposed to, like, shut down all thought. You're supposed to be all instinct, essentially. And it seems like Percival kind of had that, but notably, I could remember whenever I entered the trance. That's how I knew how to like try and run back and enter it again. Like the first time I hit it, it was like, oh, clear. I remember how that went. Let me try and mimic the conditions so I can do it again. Meanwhile, it seems like Percival did that not just reflexively or instinctively. It's like someone else hijacked his body, and that would make sense considering the language that Percival was speaking isn't actually demon language. As was pointed out in last week's comment section, the language that Percival seems to be speaking is actually more similar to the Sylph language that Kion was speaking in the previous chapters. And we know Percival, for some reason, has an affinity to pick up different languages. Just like that. So it's highly probable that a separate being that either exists within Percy or existed near Percy at that point kind of hijacked him. Because why would he not remember it? Unless there was like, he was a two-souled being where one took over when in a state of pure despair, and or he was possessed by something else. But don't he remembers some of it, but not much of it? I don't know. It's a very strange thing. Like, I was gonna make a Percy potential video, but now I don't know. Like, I thought Despair Magic was something he may be able to do on command, but who knows if this is locked to this alternative self? Maybe not. Maybe I just have to focus on Percy the Hope Man. But I don't know. This chapter's kind of interesting. However, another more interesting about this chapter is that whatever Percy did to Kion when in that weird trance-like state, he ended up not necessarily harming Kion in the traditional sense. Like, he didn't. Like, if I was going to think of an apt comparison to what happened here, it's not like he dehydrated Kion's arm to the point where a lot of his blood, his like cells died and drained and shriveled up. It's more so that he actually took the life out of it. Like, he inflicted death upon it, essentially. By doing that, he's sort of like, this is what the hand's natural state would look like when Kion is at the age of his death, presumably. Because you can see by his nail growth, you can see by how old and wrinkly the hand is. Like, the hand isn't just dehydrated, it literally aged. So, notably, something like Tristan's magic, which only works to undo physical damage, wouldn't work on something that is literally something akin to a time progression. Like, putting it into a new state. This is, technically, by all means of beings, Kion's arm is still healthy. It's just healthy when Kion is probably like 85. Or, not 85. It seems like when he's 120. Like, that's the thing. Like, it seems like the limit of Kion's age is what happened to his arm rather than any actual damage being done to it. As Tristan notes, it's like a vampire literally sucked the life out of it. His lifespan was shortened with that arm. And we see that, according to Tristan, his magic doesn't work on illnesses or curses. Meaning, if you get any sort of disease, do not come to Tristan. He will not be able to heal you. However, the interesting byproduct of that is that supposedly his mother and Hendrickson can. And I'm trying to think of like previous examples of curses in particular. I mean, technically, if I remember, Elizabeth did manage to dispel the curse on Merlin. Like, she managed to use her goddess magic to invade Merlin's mind, and she actually just ended up running into Zeldris there, but she still actually managed to dispel that. It was a curse. It wasn't necessarily a physical affliction on Merlin's flesh. And then in the same breath, I'm trying to think of a time when by technicality, but no, that was a possession, not so much a curse. And we know that, that's weird, because like, I was going to say, hypothetically, you could say that Ludichel's possession of Margaret was a curse, or some sort of illness or affliction that wasn't necessarily bodily harm. Like we saw, Ludichel could use his magic to heal Margaret's vessel just fine. But in terms of releasing the body, or releasing Ludichel from the body, it was something that required Hendrickson to step in. So I guess that's their proof of concept that they're like better healers, or at least better all-round healers than Tristan would be. But I wonder, is that a biological limitation of Tristan himself, as in he'll never be able to learn how to do that? Or is that simply an experience thing where he just hasn't run into enough curses and or illnesses to properly heal like his parent / mentor has? I'm assuming Hendy's his mentor, something along those lines. I don't know. I'm intrigued, because this is a hypothetical growth point for Tristan, but it could also be an end point. And I'll admit, like, once again, I love little side details. I love how Tristan, when saying that, oh no, I can't do this, well, to go get my mom, I think he was about to say mommy. I do like that. Like that's a habit that a lot of people of age try to get out of later. Especially for, I guess we get that because Tristan is a royal, right? So they probably can't go around calling people mommy and daddy anymore. He has to like properly start calling them my liege or mother or father. Like he has to get all proper with them. So it is cool to see that little detail. Once again, Nagoba, he's good at plugging little character things that your other mangaka just wouldn't do. Like nothing's added to the narrative for that other than just showing how Tristan is still tied to his parents, which is something that's implied because obviously he's their kid. But with that being said, Kion is holding his arm, Jade is all concerned, and Kion goes to say, "What have you done to me? How can I fight off foes with this arm? If I'm stuck with this my whole life, then my career as a knight is forever cut off. How do you intend to make up for this?" What? Why did Frieza slip in there? Is that foreshadowing? I don't know, but Kion, and notably he says, it's your fault. And I love it because, once again, the obvious is very clearly stated here that, none of this would have happened if you just didn't jump him for very little reason. And the thing is, right, at this point in the chapter, going off the context we had previously from the knowledge that we knew they had, I still think it's pretty unreasonable for them to start randomly attacking someone, right? Especially someone of Percival's stature, size, especially with the information they knew. However, people were defending them. And you know what? It's fine. Defend it. They're in a war, yada yada. Well, no, I can't yada yada that because that's very important, right? They're in a context where they've already been broken into as a kingdom. Their main asset has been stolen. So if an asset did manage to get back and they didn't know about that, then who knows? Maybe this is a chance to seize an asset, get some clout, get some power. I'm going to be like that sometimes. But before we get into that more in depth, we see that Percy kind of just in the midst of it, and it is cool, right? Because we don't see his face. When Nasian's Donnie and Anne are defending Percy for the fact that, hey, it's not really his fault. You're the one who instigated this and earned that. Sorry, it sucks to suck. Percy's face is hidden, and then we see that he grabs Kion's arm, and Kion freaks out at first, but when Percy does it, once again, notably, Percy doesn't say anything. His magic speaks, and it says, return, return, return. And Kion is fighting back at first to the point where his sweat is rising in the opposite direction. But in a burst of light, his arm is back. Like fully back to normal, too. It's not even, it never happened. Like, the life got pushed back into it. And we see that this magic is essentially completely unique. And fear. Like I'm not going to say fear. Intrigue is what popped into my head when I read this. Because notably, and once again, until Bleach just becomes like a backwards part of my subconscious, like Naruto and Seven Deadly Sins, obviously. Like, once it becomes a subconscious part of me, like a lot of other anime have, then I will stop mentioning it so frequently. But this very much reminded me of like an opposite and forward version of Horihime's, what was it called? Remember, it wasn't confirmed to be healing. It was literally rejecting phenomena. So it's a 50-50, right? It's either a despair magic is Percy's version of Horihime's rejecting phenomena in reverse, where it's applying phenomena, and then Percy can use his hope magic to reject said phenomena, which would explain why he could kind of do the whole Horihime thing and bring himself back to life, because he just simply rejected his death with his hope magic. Or, hypothetically, it's something more along the lines of Julius's magic from Black Clover, where Julius is able to, as long as he has the store of magic, to accelerate the wounds of someone or accelerate the existence of someone, like he seemed to do with Kion's arm, and or reverse the existence of someone as he does with Kion's arm here, where it goes back to its normal age. I don't know. It's a big 50-50. And once again, Percy seems to be a little bit, once again, out of character. Once again, we don't get to see his face when he's doing it, but he seems to be frowning. And then in the midst of him healing Kion's arm, he still has this, like, it's not necessarily a sad, but a more somber and contemplative look on his face. Once again, it's almost like Percy is doing everything by reflex. And notably, Percy's been a reflexive kind of dude ever since we met him, ever since he first got his magic. Like, he didn't know what it was. And that's where it goes to the whole idea that maybe Percy's hero-type magic has some sort of internal sentience of its own. Because the whole return idea, like literally, while Jade and Isolde are shocked that the arm is back, Tristan asked the very obvious question of like, homeboy, that was sweet and all. I'm glad my dude has his arm back, but what kind of magic is that? Because like, if healing magic didn't do it, what magic do you have? And Percy's like, yeah, I don't know, but I figure if I did that to him, I could undo it too. So that's the thing, right? That reminds me of the rejecting phenomena from Bleach, but at the same time, it reminds me of the time magic from Black Clover. So I'm not sure. Because the thing is, I mean, we've seen Percy. No, I'm connecting to a different series at once here. So let me stop. Long story short, it feels like Percy's magic is a hodgepodge of things I've seen before in the best way possible because it's making me ask questions. And, unfortunately, I happen to like questions. So I'm much more intrigued than I am annoyed. However, we get to see that Kion, after the explanation, is a little bit intrigued. He's like looking at his arm in shock, but then he gets his name called and he's like, yo. Well, no, Tristan is like, yo, homeboy, let me level with you real quick. You need to thank him and apologize, considering you started this mess. And once again, like, he just seems strange, right? And I wonder, like, hold on, let me go back to that panel. Yeah, let's see, 2 pages ago, he looked extremely menacing. Like, he was freaking out how he was about to lose his entire career. He was sweating extremely. His eye was all big and bulgy and veiny. And then the moment that he gets healed and gets told to apologize, he's like, oh, thank you. Sorry about before. Guess it was all just a big mix-up. And I'm not sure if this is him as a, like, the big thing, right, that we're having a debate on in the comment section is if whether or not Kion is just on demon timing, just naturally, and he's actually a good guy, or if he's working for Arthur. Because this could be interpreted as just Kion's personality. He's ultimate to the extreme, right? Like, he has intelligence, he has power, but the thing is, like, he's either one way or the other, and you can't convince him of that. Except the only person to have any real control over him is someone like Tristan, his superior. Or you could take this as Kion just saving face from the breakdown he had earlier about how his whole entire life was ruined, and the fact that he kind of revealed that he's not on the side of Leonis to the point where he tried to execute one of the 4 knights. I'm leaning more towards this is just an about face, because it seems so unnatural, right? Like, I know there are characters that tend to have like dual-sided personalities in fiction, right? This does tend to happen. So if Kion does end up being just a perfectly normal dude who happened to he's just a demon, I mean, I guess, I'm somewhat of a I can't say I'm somewhat on demon time myself. I'm not, but I'm somewhat of a fan of people on demon timing myself. So I wouldn't be mad at it, but I still don't trust Kion as far as I can throw him, and I don't think I can throw him very far. But no, and once again, I love the reactions of our characters, right? Because Donnie's main principal reaction is something that I would have as a reaction too. I was like, what? That mix-up nearly got us all slaughtered. Like, a mix-up is when you order your chicken tenders with honey mustard and they give you ranch. Like, oh, sorry, I just grabbed the wrong thing out of a rush. A mix-up is when you order like a strawberry smoothie and they bring you a chocolate one. Like, oh, sorry, homeboy, didn't mean to do that. A mix-up, like, simply put, those examples are meant to say this is not a mix-up. This is an accidental thing that we can just glaze over, because he literally, like, once again, I said it once and I'll say it again. If the gang did not rise up at the very specific moment that they did, a Knight of the Apocalypse would be dead. Possibly. No, not possibly. Because to be fair, while some people were getting on Tristan for not simply just one-shotting Percival, it was very obvious that A, Tristan was holding back, and B, that Tristan was about to stop holding back and kill Percival. So, Kion, if you had succeeded and tricked your leader into killing one of the 4 knights, I hope you know you were next, dude. Like, legitimately, if I'm Meliodas, right, and I'm pulling up on Kion, and I find the dead body of one of the Knights of the Apocalypse that I just sent out to go do a favor. Well, no, I didn't even send out. I'm just hunting him down, right? And I find his dead body there, and one of my knights comes and tells me, oh yes, look at this, your majesty. It's an enemy of King Arthur wielding a piece of the Cauldron of Eternal Darkness. He must be that. And I know explicitly what I told these idiots. I'm I'll reawaken my true magic right then and there and annihilate you from existence. Like, there's not going to be a particle of you left. No one's going to remember you. It will be a legal crime to remember your name, Kion. I'm telling you, dog. Because that's not, I don't know. The mix-up is insane. So I do not blame Donnie for giving him the one finger salute, if you know what I'm saying. And like, notably, Percival just lets it slide, right? Like, he's like, well, if it was a mix-up, I guess that's just life and stuff. And like, even Nasians, who has been a Percival supporter since day -5, right? Like, if Nasians knew about Percival when we knew about Percival, I'm talking about chapter 1, he would have been a personal fanboy from way back when. But even he's looking on like, Percy, this wasn't a mix-up, dog. This wasn't a mix-up. And luckily enough, Anne gets on his case for that. Like, I get it, Percy had his rage moment, and there's no point, I mean, there's a character point, but there's no narrative point to have this whole interaction last. But I think that just makes it stupider in hindsight, right? Like, at least hopefully Donnie, Nasians, and Anne will hold a grudge against Kion and the whole Tristan squad. But like, the fact that our MC just literally unlocked a new type of magic, went into a trance-like state, and almost killed people for the first, well, not for the first time. I still 100% believe that he killed Talisker. There's nothing you can do to convince me otherwise. But at least, like, he almost conscientiously committed his first act of slaughter, which he was very against, not the arc before. Like, he literally saved Elgin's life, almost to his detriment there. I'm shocked that he's not going to hold any sort of grudge here. Like, that feels a bit unrealistic. Like, even Kid Goku would have held a grudge there. Kid Naruto, like, all these optimistic people, they would have been like, it literally would have been like, you almost killed my friends. I gotta, like, if I'll heal you, right? Fine, I'll let it slide, but I will never forget that, and I'm not going to forgive you. You're lucky that this dude, like, if I was Percival in this scenario, my reaction would literally be like, you're lucky your boss could kill me if he wanted to. You're lucky that he has me, he's holding me back. Because if not, if he ever turns his back, I just want you to know you're not safe, homeboy. You're not safe. But of course, Percival, he's too nice for that. He's too good. And notably, this is why I'm still leaning on Kion's evil train, right? Because Tristan straight up calls it out, like, well, it's rare for you to get that mixed up, Kion. Didn't the prophet song tell you how the night looked? A boy with light green hair like the wings of a bird. That's clearly what we have here. So Kion even knew what the nights look like. And at least, I think all of them knew, notably. But, so, no, apparently just Kion was told. I guess Kion is like the sub-leader to this group of idiots when Tristan isn't there. But at least Kion was directly informed that this is what the night of the apocalypse looked like. And apparently he was told by Meliodas himself. And yo, shout outs to me, you know, let me Millie rock on my block. I knew Gother communicated that out. I knew Gother did it. I knew Gother was that boy. But he contacted Meliodas about it the other day. And Meliodas told Kion this, that the piece of the coffin was taken back for us. So all excuses for Kion to have are gone. Gone. That was an actual act of treason right there. Like, it is one step removed from literal treason, if not just actually being legitimate treason. Like, if Meliodas showed up instead, can you imagine if Meliodas showed up instead of Tristan? Or can you imagine if Lance showed up instead of Tristan? Like, I'm confident. Maybe Meliodas would have been nicer, but I know Lancelot would have been like, whoa, you're evil. Just got rid of him. Like, straight up. I know hands down, Lance would have been like, I'm sorry. Let me I got some wax in my ears. Let me clean my ears up real quick. You did what? After you were told what? I'm sorry, my boy, you're evil. You have to leave. Like, he would have given Kion a one-way trip to purgatory, if you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying. Like, come on now. That is jacked up. That Kion really had no excuses. And he still went out. He still went on the murder. And the thing is, like, I will give Jade, I won't give Isolde a pass. Isolde's still nuts. And Jade, I'm still admitting, I'm like, at least based on the information you seem to know, and what Kion told you. Your lack of critical thinking doesn't make me the biggest fan of you. Once again, not the biggest fan of Tristan's squad outside of Tristan himself here. I'm not going to lie. And Kion. But the thing, and I know it's weird, right? Because I'm like getting down Kion's throat, but I'm getting down his throat under the assumption that he's not a stupid character and he's working for Arthur, right? So if it's all revealed that he's a nice person, I'm going to just hate Kion too. But regardless of that, these guys ask him, like, yo, is that true? You knew all of that, and you still tried to get us to kill the knight and his friends. For what? And like Isolde literally asks, what's wrong with you? And Kion laughs it off, and he's like, huh, oh, well, yeah, oops, oopsie, tee-hee, now that you mentioned it, yes, wow, look at me getting myself all worked up. But then he instantly deflects and is like, oh, I saw Isolde chasing Percival around, looking like she was out for slaughter, and I mistakenly assumed he was an assassin from Camelot. That's a lie. It's just a lie. Like, it's literally a lie. Like, Jade, call him out on this. That's a straight up lie. That's not what you said. We have, like, Jade may not have the Carfax, but I have the Carfax. That's not what you said. You didn't assume he was an assassin of Camelot. You assumed that he had, like, the lie you came up with to get Jade to help you in your literal treason, had nothing to do with Isolde chasing him around. You just wanted him dead. And okay, yeah, Kion's got to be evil. He's got to be evil. Like, please, for any of my Kion sympathizers in the comments section, tell me how he's not evil. Because even, like, once again, this is why I love reading chapters and rereading them. I'm gonna actually start doing, like, this will probably be the last week I do a just plain out recording. I'm probably gonna start doing live reactions for people on Patreon because I want to give them more content. But at the same time, this is why I love rereading stuff, because now I'm noticing Anne looks directly at Kion when he's saying this, and as Kion claims, oh, so it's half your fault, isn't it? And Kion's laughing his head off. Anne's looking directly at him, and Anne, we know what Anne's magic is. She can see falsehoods. She can see falsehoods. She can see lies, deceit, deception, betrayal. Yo, y'all seen Lion King 2? Lion King 2 is a banger, dog. Like, out of all the directed Disney sequels, whew, chef's kiss. Go watch that movie. But also, the like button is free. It greatly helps out the channel. Also, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. If you're still around, like 48 minutes in. But still, regardless, the thing is, Anne takes a deep, long whiff of a look at Kion and sees the darkness radiating from him. Like, it's not, this isn't unclear, right? He's specifically hiding things and lying to everyone there. He's got to be evil. He's got two of them too. So I think I think Sin had two of them too. Like, back when Lancelot was in Sin mode, he did have two, which may have been one that his name wasn't actually Sin, and two that he wasn't actually a fox. So I can like figure out the two that Lance was hiding. But for Kion, I don't know what the second is. Well, I know one of them is, haha, I'm evil, I'm a traitor, treason, working for Arthur. Like, it's gotta be that. It's gotta be that. Kion can't just be on demon time, bro. This is way too coincidental. This feels too strange. This feels too set up. If not, once again, if the Kion sympathizers are right and Nakaba runs up to me and breaks my ankles, if he nutmegs me, I've been reading way too much Blue Lock, but if he nutmegs me and ends up scoring a goal on me, insane. And we see that Anne's kind of smart on this one. I don't even blame her for that. She's gonna save this, but she sees that he's lying, and not seems to notice that she's glaring at Kion, but neither say anything because it's not the time to. It's not worth the risk right now, because notably, once again, if I'm in Tristan's point of view, right, and the thing that will save Kion, if I'm Tristan here, is my connection to Kion, right? Notably, I know him, I guess. But once again, from my context, if you were to suddenly put me in Tristan's shoes, I'm going to turn around and look at Kion with the same look that Anne is giving him. I'm going to be like, you had all this information, but you still made the conscientious decision to try and slaughter one of the knights? Why are you misdirecting right now? You know Isolde as well. Like, this is just something that may have happened. You should have interfered to try and stop her to save one of the knights. That doesn't suddenly make this perfect description that you know the information of the Night of the Apocalypse suddenly a person to be slaughtered. Kion, are you a traitor? And I like, if like the friendship in me would have made me ask him, are you a traitor? But the real 50% demon goddess human hybrid in me would have curb stomped that man through the chest and pinned him to the ground and then asked him, Kion, are you a traitor? like, if I had the artistic talent, I would literally whip that up real quick. Literally me wielding my half dark, half light wings and my dual blades to his throat. Like, Kion, are you a traitor? Because that's the kind of vibes I would get. But I guess Tristan trusts him too much. But we get to see that Tristan is properly misdirected by Kion's jab, and Tristan reacts to something that Isolde does, I guess. I guess it's the face she makes. Like, notably, he looks a little bit too excited for the face she makes here. But according to Isolde, this child took it from me. My chastity. The one thing I swore I saved for you, Prince. And I guess Tristan didn't hear it or something, because he's like, what? What did he say? And she's like, I can no longer look you straight in the eye. Farewell, my beloved prince. And she just dips, runs off. And like, I don't know, Nakaba, it's like, who's the example? Fraudulent. You're gonna have to fraudulent this hard. Like, and notably, you fraudulent with one character. You did some reverse fraudulent with some of the human cast from season 1, but like, or early season 2. But you were gonna have to fraudulent a lot of this cast for me to really go out there and be like, there we go. That's the one right there. Like, I'm not sure how I'm gonna like any of these characters with time. Like, so, because geez, there's all idiots. Like, and notably, Tristan's really confused. He's like, what? What you mean farewell? Did I do something to anger her, or like he legitimately doesn't get it, and I don't blame him because it doesn't make sense. And Jade is like, yeah, you know, that's just Isolde being like. Can you deal with like? Should we trust like? I know our Holy Knight cast from the last series wasn't the most trustworthy group of individuals, but at the same time, should we really trust someone with that much destructive power, with the authority of being a Holy Knight? Like, if she's leaping to conclusions that quickly and is that dangerous, she should be a prisoner. Like straight up. You don't. Isolde reminds me of Vivian from the last series. Way too much power under way too little mental control. Like, we can't let her roam the streets and assume people are gonna be safe. But of course, the consensus is just let her roll off. And essentially, Kion gets a slide from this point on, and we get to see that Anne is like, interesting reaction. What did you do about that? Like, she asks Percy, well, what happened there? And Percy, being Percy, is like, oh, well, now you mention it, I kind of just and it smelled good. And obviously, Anne, being the one who wanted that from Percy herself, smacks him on the dome for it. Notably, she should have hurt her hand though, because like, she hits the helmet. She doesn't even hit Percy herself. But, and come on now, it's Percival, and I guess that's the thing, right? But I'm much more excusing of Percy's actions, because Percy didn't try to kill somebody that they knew was important. Unlike Kion. Like, Kion's actions, inexcusable. Percy's actions, the dude has the mental fortitude and knowledge of a 5-year-old at best, and is built like one too. What do you really expect from him? But we see that Tristan's like, you know, crazy day. You know, I almost killed you. You see, I almost got you. Like, I was almost about to whip out my true magic on you and absolutely slaughter you in everything you knew and loved. However, you got through it. So let's start over. What's your name, dog? He extends his hand, and we see that Percival, he goes on a pretty in-depth explanation. He's like, well, if we're giving our canon introductions here, so people who finally jumped on the manga because they heard that Meliodas' son was back in it, I'm Percival from Finger of God, and I guess I'm one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. And there you go. That's it. We get to see that the one of the 4 Knights has declared himself, and with a meaty slap, Tristan decides to return the favor. Tristan Leonis, also of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse. Nice to meet you. And notably, we get to see that they're shot. And like, I will give the rest of the group a pass because they didn't see Meliodas. But Percy, you're telling me you don't see any resemblance there? Like, they have one of the same eye colors. They have literally the same hair, just one's longer. Like, I mean, there again, once again, Percy, mental fortitude of a 5-year-old and built like one too. So I don't expect Percy to make that connection, never mind. But of course, it's cool to see their reaction to the fact that this is the Prince of Leonis, and he's a Knight of the Apocalypse. And technically, we all knew this, like, go way, way back to life, back to reality, back to life. I've been listening to way too much music, but essentially going back to when we initially got the reveal of the Four Knights, that silhouette that isn't apt for any of them because they're all much younger than what was initially expected. We figured, obviously, Tristan was going to be one, Lance was going to be one, but it's good to finally get the like meaty, girthy, solid confirms. Like, this is beyond a shadow of a doubt the whole squad. Like, these people are members of the team, and we see that Tristan happily declares, like, oh yeah, that's facts, and also with the one I brought back now, all four of us here, we're chilling. And they're like, wait a minute, all four? That doesn't make sense. You, me, the other guy you brought back, who else would be a knight? I wonder who. And Tristan's like, come on now. you kidding, right? Come on, don't be silly. You're forgetting about the one who took you all the way here. And I don't know, once again, I'm shocked that the group is shocked. Like, I mean, once again, they have no context, but we see that they're shocked that Lancelot's a knight of prophecy too. And once again, I love it. I love it because I know, for the person who did correct me, yes, Meliodas and Lancelot are not technically biologically uncle and nephew, and at the same time, Tristan and Lancelot are not necessarily biological brothers. However, once again, Nakama with that great character work, he's literally introducing the fact that Tristan and Meliodas, the brother and the uncle to Lancelot, know him so well that they completely understand that Lancelot would not tell them that. I bet Tristan was all upfront and clear at the night he got. He was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're the Knights of Prophecy. We're going to go save the world. Bada bing, bada boom. Come with me. Hop on my giant fish. We're going to get it moving. Meanwhile, Lance was like, I don't know, just follow me, I guess. I know where to go. And he stuck with that. And finally, Lance catches up. So he didn't sense, I mean, maybe he did, and he's just not commenting on it because there's more pressing matters. But dude, you're telling me you didn't sense nor see the gigantic twinkling star that dwarfed buildings? Like, the fact that you're kind of just walking up, hands in your pockets when your knight almost died. Kind of wild. But of course, we had to see that he's like, yo, do me a favor. Stop destroying everything. Please stop breaking the city. I just got you here. Do you know how much property damage I'd have to pay for? Darn it, I don't even have that much money. Now I'm going to go rob somebody. But of course, he's like, whatever. I guess it worked out in the end because you're acquainted with each other. And unfortunately, like, I know there's more important information right now, but I'm really sad we do not get a proper, like only Tristan is hyped to see Lancelot. Lancelot is not hyped to see Tristan. Like, notably, Tristan gleams, he lights up, he glows up when he gets to see that Lancelot's here. He's so happy to see, he's so, like, once again, I like Tristan the most now, just because he's such a pure boy. Like, you know, other than the fact that he almost killed Percival. But, like, he's like, oh, Lance, it's been too long. Like, he literally runs up to him like two brothers who haven't seen each other in a while. And he's all excited. He's like, yo, did you just see the knight I brought back? Are you ready? Are you excited? We got all four of us here. We're great. And he's like, oh, yeah. Speaking of, that night you speaking of, yeah, he's gone. Of course, that ends the chapter with Tristan being in surprise shock and Percival being in shock. And like I said, the chapter ends right then and there. And this is a sneaker 10 out of 10 for me. Like, last week's chapter was like a 15 out of 10 for a lot of people just because they loved it. They got to see two knights fight. It was top of the line serotonin. All firing alpha on all cylinders. And I definitely respect that, right? And upon reflection, you know, I may have been firing off on too many cylinders when it came to being a bit mean to that chapter. But in regards to that, I'm not going to change my thoughts on that. What I will say here is that now that everything's been explained, now that everything has calmed down, seeing the groups interact in a more healthy way, getting more speculation about Kion, getting more information on the entire dynamic of Tristan's abilities, getting more theory speculating on that, getting more theory speculation upon Lance's own ability, not Lance's, Percival's own abilities. More, like, this chapter is filled with so much good meat, good taste, good juice. I love it. I very much appreciate that. And it's also the chapter that once again confirms 3 of our 4 knights, which is very, very important considering this is the whole name of the series. Once again, it's like the 7 Deadly Sins all over again. Like, we didn't have 7 Deadly Sins for a long time. Like, for some reason, all 7 were pretty much never together until, like, what? Vizel, Merlin wasn't at Vizel. So yeah, like, we didn't have all 7 sins until like second Holy War initiation phase went off. That's when all 7 actually gathered. So for the 4 knights being this close to gathering, 3/4 of the way there, really, really good. Notably, I am wondering why this knight fled. Maybe they're an imposter, who knows? But I think the more likely thing is, right, just based off what that dude looked like in that initial 4 knights reveal way back when, like chapter 6, and based on like common assumption, because notably, if Arthur doesn't even have a bride yet, I mean, to be fair, he can have an illegitimate kid that he had 16 years ago. He could have just slain some random woman and bada bing bada boom, they had a kid by him. That could be Mordred. But considering I do think the 4th knight, at least from that image and what we know and the whole Gawain, I think it's Gawain, right? And I think he may be suffering from the same thing that Escanor is suffering with, which is just performance anxiety. Like, he may have Sun, but right now he's like restricting it or something like that, and he's just not confident, or he's just scared. Like, hopefully Tristan didn't just stumble across the wrong dude. And this final knight, which I'm assuming is the one with gold-colored magic, right? Because we have the knight that has no consistent form, which is Lancelot, because we know he shapeshifts between Sin and Lance in his middle of his combat. We know the verdant-like hair, that's Percival. We know the man who bears darkness and light in his eyes, that's Tristan. The only one that's left is the one with gold-colored magic. And gold-colored magic, flames, golden, heat, you know that. Gawain. That's who I'm thinking of. And I know Gawain is meant to be like a very prominent knight within Arthurian mythology too. So if Mordred doesn't pop up now, I could definitely see Mordred popping up after a time skip or something like that. Or it could be Mordred and he's just running for some reason. I don't know. Essentially, all I'm hoping for is that it isn't just a fake out and that we actually have to go back out and hunt for the real 4th knight and that this dude was literally just an imposter. Like, if that was the case and Tristan just found the wrong guy, darn it, Tristan. But whatever. Other than that, 10 out of 10 chapter. Greatly appreciate it. Please tell me your thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Nago the Pencil, writing off.